Hello? Someone there? Are we real? How's everybody doing? So quiet. That's fine. Whatever. I can talk to myself. I'm good at it. She's playing Call of the Lamb. You hear any screaming in the background? Uh, she's doing that. Yep. I am gonna work on this cave today, but not this part. I mean, yes, it's the same map, but not the cave itself per se. You'll see. Basically, I want to add that was nice. I want to add a timer that I can use for my sked commission and perhaps other things if I ever need a timer. But that works better with my overall streaming setup and very specific needs with said sked commissions. So, I'm trying making one. Yep. Which means today is where's the button? I have a button. Oh, I'll just use this one. Wow, it's desktop day. Oh no. Infinity mirror. Okay, get rid of that. Boom. We're in the cave. Now, usually no one gets to see this part of the cave. As you can see, the cave goes a bit bigger than I normally show, and we will work on that. I was going to update this eventually, maybe even today start doing that, to have multiple cameras. So you can have a be right back screen. Maybe this way would be a good be right back screen. Oh, it makes a level of sense. I have to make some outside something or other probably, but hey. And then I wanted another one out here somewhere. Even though the outside is not done. I mean, this is also a nice little view, kind of, but the bloom is a little intense outside at the moment. I am thinking that light intensity might be a little bit high looking at it. Can I turn that, yeah. It looks alright in here, but it's not like blowing my eyeballs out. I set to just one. Set to one, it's kind of sad and gloomy. No one wants sad and gloomy, so. Yes, it's the Yacht Cave. Hi, Sprucing. Two's fine. We'll do two. Nice little two. Seems right without being quite as eye gouging. Just still do what I can. Yeah. Yeah, there's the cave. Now, this is not entirely what we want to do. But I think how should I do this? Let's add a node. Just for grouping purposes. We're gonna womp right in here. Okay. Full D. Full D. Alright. Sake of argument. Isn't that lovely? Camera 2. Right. Play with camera 2.
Why did I get a gold chest?
Random chance. What is that? Why is that skewing instead of Ugh.
Hey, a fish got.
You found fishing already.
Here, I got my fishing.
Alright, let's reset the rotation on that. It's strange. Alright, I want to set it facing the ground, kind of. Yes, upside down. That's perfect. Then we'll rotate it like that. And we'll do something like this for now. Okay, look at that. There we go. That's a pretty good little view, right? There we go. Okay. Now you might be like, what are we doing? We'll call this starting soon cam. All right. We'll call this BRB. Now this one, I think I might as well set that. We're starting to build in the process of doing all this. I need to set up like interactivity on some level. I have a few ways I could do this. I could make it so that it does stuff outside the normal view of the screen capture stuff. I could, I mean, yeah, I don't know. Let's see. This isn't very good at this point, but whatever. One thing at a time. We will work on our outside another time. But for now, I'm just trying to make something. You know? Something that you'd like, oh yeah, this is a different angle for different purposes. There we go, BRB. Yeah, we now have 3 cameras in this. Uh-huh. What happens if I run this? Oh, good. It does the right camera. All right. So this should be main cam. Keep high with home mask environment. Right on. Main camera is the current camera. So now we're going to make a script. The cave dot. Yeah, you know what? That's fine. That works fine. Do. Funk. I want to say it's input. Yes. Okay. This one I always end up is go match pressed is released is built in is blocking is class connected queued for deletion disconnect get metal list. Okay. Womp. At least that part's easy. Action press. That's probably smarter. I don't know if I can get a switch statement sort of thing going on for this, but whatever. This doesn't have to be like production perfect. This just has to work for me. I'm actually make this one main cam. I'm gonna make this one starting soon because that's like an order of operations thing, right? I'm making it keyboard 123 is my idea. So here's the thing. Is there always a current one? There is always... Ancestor Viewport is currently using this camera, so I need to... I see. I'll just make it cameras. Okay. And this will be 1920 by 1080, no matter what. Now, in theory, that should still work. Bad start. Okay. Add child node camera 2D. See if that does anything. Woof dog. All right. So, where is this? Where are you drawing?
Kill that thing.
Good job, baby.
What you did.
Nice.
Got the trophy.
Nice. I think you always get the trophy, but then you gotta build the damn thing.
Alright.
Just need to be, go here, maybe? I always struggle with frickin'... No, that ain't doing shit. Why are my viewports not rendering? Alright, let's start with this. This needs to be top left anchor mode. That's just the way that's gonna be. This needs to be... Where's your gosh dang transform? You don't have a transform. Disable 3, that seems insane. Oh, that's fun. I can just straight up make it transparent up there. I don't want to do that. I do want this one to have it, though. Enabled zoom. Smoothing, rotation, drag. No. Interesting issues I'm having. I always end up having issues when I try to use sub viewports. They're a real pain in the ass for me. Now, I don't necessarily have to do this, right? Right out the gate, we're having an issue here. Because well... Alright, change type back to node. Something's wrong with that. Sub viewport isn't working the way I want. If I do this, we still have this. Fine. Let's go into the settings and go into our input map, and we're going to quickly remember how the hell to do this. Cam 1, add action. That is there. Cam 2, add action. cam 3. And for the sake of argument, cam 0. No, 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 no. Because I want the option to say no 3D cameras and go from there, but we're going to make that a later goal. Because that would be how I use it as an overlay on my stream. Shit. There we go. No. Boy, my hands are not happy. It started yesterday. I was having like weird arm issues. It's just like they're not listening to me. It's really fun. Okay, in theory, with that established, I should be able to come in here and go camera swap. Now, is there an easier way to switch, like transition between these? I have no idea. I've never done camera switching before, so we are learning live. That's kind of how this goes for me all the time. I'm always learning live. Believe it or not, I don't have Godot's entire documentation memorized. Nor do I instantly know how to do things I've never done before. So we go one step at a time. That worked. That's fine. We have camera switching. Why is sub viewport not working? Probably something to do with canvas item crap. It usually is. Upload tracking, perspective. I see there might be a way to. Let's look at this real quick. Let's clear current, coal mass current, Doppler track. I don't care about Doppler. Make current. Yeah, I'd probably have to make my own fade. That's fine. There's ways to do that. Scale. Hi, Lizzie. 7 months. 7 months of Lizzie. So much Lizzie. Time for more Lizzie. Oh, translate. I don't know what that one is exactly. I haven't played with these a lot. Yeah. Type player.
Do
Interesting.
these have to be on top of the prop?
Do what have to be on top of the props?
Arm?
Oh, the boundary around them is their radius of effectiveness. Anything in that boundary, they will work with.
Do they have to?
Be in the middle. If you cancel that, you can move buildings. Go into your crafting, your building menu, where you just were, like you're gonna build something. Or not. Go back to where you were to try and build something. There should be a key listed at the bottom that says Edit Buildings. Hit that, and now you can move shit around. I don't know how well it works with that, but there you go. That lets you rearrange. So if I wanted to work on a clean transition, I'd probably need to have a texture rendered based on the camera and then put that on a surface and fade it out or something. I don't know. Figure it out with time. For now, we have overlay cam, which I guess I don't even need that. We're going to add a control node. Container. Serves no person. Oh, okay. Well, then we'll change that to something else then. I don't know if I want that. Let's just do a text. Like a label. Just a label is fine. Standard label. Okay, we have a label. Container with a label. Let's give it a nice standard There we go. Now that is extremely small, and we have no font. So let's do a new label setting. Font. I'd have to find a font. So let's find a lovely font. Now, I always have somewhere around here, I thought, pixel fonts. Chevy Rays fonts, because these are licensed and easy to use and all that shit. So that's what I like to use. Right? So I don't know why they're still zipped. I thought I opened you. Did I not open you? I guess I did not. Well then, let's do that there. Okay, that's fine. I'll just do that. Okay. Now we need to find what we want to use for this purpose. A timer. Now I do have my favorites. You can see them on my streams a lot. Does this really not get bigger? Ew. Let's see. I mean, Bubble Time I've used, but I don't want to use it for this. Where is my... Is Lazy Town it? No. Rise. Rise is... I like Rise a lot. Rise is a winner. Let's do Rise. I just like Rise. Okay, we're going to put Rise right in the project. I like it so. Boom, we now have a font. And we can just pop that right there. Womp. Now we got to get to a size where it's not blurry. I think anti-aliasing is forcing itself on, which isn't entirely awful, but
All my followers are sleeping.
I don't know, baby. They're probably not feeling great. They might need something. And now we get to make it look however the hell we want. Yeah. We can put a nice little like tint to it. I thought we could do a gradient, but I guess not. Shocking. Maybe that's rich text. Shadow. We can do like a delineator. Dark purple. You'd have to put some alpha to it. There we go. Now, did new label. If I clear this, what if I did? No, it has to be new label settings. Okay, so let's undo a bunch of that. Put it back where it was. And for the sake of argument, I'm going to add a rich text label and see if that's any better. All right, we're gonna name that just for now. We're gonna go Blomp and see if I'm allowed to do something more interesting with this. Just as a fun experiment. All right. Bit content, scroll, no need scroll, auto wrap mode, tab size. Do a center alignment just for funsies. These are much more complicated. I know how to set a font in this right now. Okay. You can do more with rich texts, but I'm stupid, so we're not going to do that. We're not doing that right now. We'll figure that out later. I swear I could set a... Huh, alright. Whatever. Whatever, man. Fine. Okay, we're going to do a center, just to have it. Sake of argument, if we run this now, we should have text in the corner. Look at that. Whoop-de-doo. Okay? Now, where do I want the text? Probably down in the bottom right. Now, here's the other issue. I need this bigger, I think. Like, way bigger. Like 72. Let's try that. There's a big-ass timer. Alright? Big-ass timer. We hit play. Wham, there's now a big-ass timer. Look at that. Excellent. Now, if I go over to my OBS real quick and I look at how that looks in the cave, I mean that's not too small, right? That shows up. You can read that on stream. Should it be bigger, you think? Just keep in mind this will be popping up mostly on art streams. So it is my timer for how long I have to work. And the idea is I can get it to appear over me. One thing at a time. Okay, that's a start. So, and that should show up regardless of camera. By the way, oh fuck, I forgot to switch it back. Welcome to the void. Yeah, no, nothing ever happened. It's perfectly fine. So if I go like 1, 2, 3, they all work fine. They all have the timer. Timer is golden. We have a timer. Visually speaking, we have a timer. Now, this will get its own script. We call it timer load. Go. All right. We're going to start real simple with this. Now, there's options on how to approach this. I can use actual registered global time, or I can just use delta time, which should work approximately the same. So I think it's using that as a reference per frame or something like that. So it shouldn't matter. We're going to go with what I know works. Process. All right.
My whole cult is unhappy.
Have they been fed lately?
I gave them food.
Have
Good
you
food.
have you inspired them? Have you preached with them?
I did the sermon just now.
Okay. Do you have someone spreading bad shit?
How do I know that?
You'll see them with a megaphone screaming out that they hate you, and you'll be like, you have a dissenter, deal with it. They have beds. They have food. I guess your next step might be outhouse. I don't know. Her cult is unhappy.
They're all mad at me.
I'm sorry, baby.
I'm reading their minds and nothing is going on, but they're all
Yeah,
around me.
mind reading isn't all that helpful. Okay, hours and minutes are in seconds or that. Okay.
They're mad because they don't have an outhouse.
You get more inspiration, you unlock it. All right. I want a countdown timer. I don't know how to do this from 0 where it actually immediately starts doing that, but it shouldn't matter. I don't know. Okay. Let's start with. I'm gonna go ahead and just give this like I don't know, 5 seconds. 5 seconds right out the gate.
I know which one is the one that needs to eat.
Which crop to give the gold poop?
No, I'm not. How do I know which one to give the poop to?
What do you mean?
I made the bowl of poop,
Uh-huh.
and it says to make him eat the bowl of poop.
Does it not say a name?
And now he ate the bowl of poop.
Yep. It's pretty good about that.
I have to give them blessings every day to make them like me.
It helps them like you and improves their level, so they give you more progress on that. All right, I want this to go both ways, so I'm overthinking this, I think. If we're counting down, blah, seconds minus equals delta, start there. This is going to be stupid. There we go. Shit. Right, no, because they'll never do that. Okay, I gotta think like how a timer works. Else, if minutes is less than 0, otherwise, the hours is greater than 0. Seconds plus equal 60. Minutes plus equal 59. Hours minus equals. There we go. Now this could be a bitch to test, but that's fine. Maybe I can do a time scale or something. Okay. Now at some point, actually our syntax right. Okay, there. That'll just bottom at 0 then. All right. Kinda. This should actively just go. Go. There we go. We have a timer. Okay. Now, how do I set the number of digits? Is there a way?
How do I talk to the dissenter?
If you have a dissenter, you can re-educate them, and you can imprison them if you have a prison. Otherwise, you're just gradually hoping they don't cause problems. Having a rough start. I don't know why. Maybe you need a fucking break. You seem really overwhelmed right now.
I don't know.
All right, hold on. Let me look. Why am I on see you next time? What did I do that puts it on see you next time? I need to look into what that hotkey is. Hold on. All right. I can't do that on here, can I? Yes, I can. Settings. Screw it. We're gonna look. We're gonna look. Hotkeys. Switch to scene. Sign off. F12. I don't. Get rid of these. I don't know why they're happening. Clear. Like I set them up for a reason, but they keep accidentally going off, so I need a better method on that. That is not working. Okay? That keeps happening. Hold on. I'll be right back. Let me see. Let me see what's going on. Oh, your faith is.
I don't know how I'm doing wrong.
Well, you just did a ritual that costs a bunch of faith. Rituals have costs. Stuff you do has costs. Purge them today. They're mad at you. No fucking faith.
I gave them beds. I gave them food.
Yes. Reaching routinely.
Yes.
What are you feeding?
Berry bowls, fish bowls, pumpkin bowls.
Okay, go look at your cooking and stuff. There's something on the ground.
He's not bad.
Yeah, fix it. I do that once a day.
Take care of them.
How many do you have? You have 11 people? You've only done Leshy? You might just be overloaded. You don't even have buildings hardly yet. What's your divine inspiration level? Go look at the totem in the middle of the building. What buildings and stuff have you been on? Shelters. Yeah, yeah. Prison. You have a lot of people and not a lot.
I've been feeding them. They have food and they have bed.
And you just told them not to. Go to your rituals. Go down to your rituals. These has like you see thing. They have a cost.
This one.
Yes. You
It's not save and
get auto saves. At this point, you're not that bad. They're angry. These people might like you still be. And a little mark. They're near him. They're way up there? Huh. You get them nicer places to sleep, but you need wood. So the thing that helps you build more wood might be the way to go. You have someone who's told to chop trees. That's the part of it. They'll all die in a week. I'm sorry. That's you gotta go crusade.
I can't leave them.
Yes.
They're all gonna die or hate me.
Maybe they're not gonna die, they're told to not eat for free. All worshipping, they have nothing to not afford to repair their beds. You need to go out and get it. Sometimes you have to leave them at risk. Got a lot of people and not a lot to back them up with. You Oh no, you just we're playing opposite. I have an advanced story off stream. So I have
Do I go back to Darkwood?
you can go back to Darkwood, it'll be slightly harder now.
What is this guy?
He sells seats. Or you can go to the new place, which has different resources. And you can get wood either way, honestly. She is struggling with her colt. They're being dicks. Okay, I want string. Best way possible.
Enemies in the Darkwood have grown stronger.
Told you.
What? Not fair.
That's interesting. All right, this won't help me. I mean, for now that works, but I need to do a stumble. So it just did help my wife. Oh my god. Nice normal name. Okay. What are those for, Sarah? Well, you see, actually, this is where I tick down the timer, huh? All right. We're gonna make a function. All right, we're gonna make a function. This is the smart way to do this.
I even gave them meat bowls. Fish bowls, meat bowls, pumpkin bowls.
They won't eat them. You told them not to eat.
No, that was before I told them not to eat.
They weren't hungry. Update string. I'll take a variant. It's not ideal, but it's kind of where it's at. Okay. Their heavy attack makes them a bit better, but you got to get to heavy attack. New string. Okay. Whoa. What, buddy? Everyone is mad at me right now. What? Hi. Guess your mommy is stressed out. She's struggling with game. She's trying to learn details of game. Her cult members are mad at her, and she wants to please them.
Get another follower, is what you're telling me.
You can, but you don't need to prioritize it. You have a ton of them right now. You prioritize resources because that's what you're out of. Followers help you, but they're an expense at the same time. Hello. Oh my god. How's everybody doing? I'm sorry. My house has a lot going on right this second, it seems. What, Milo? Honey, if you bite my hand again, I'm going to pry your teeth out.
Put him away then if you think a butt.
He's not being a butt. I'm just anxious about it because it still hurts from 3 days ago and have marks and stuff on me. It has finally gotten to the point where I can shower without the stinging pain of a fresh paper cut. She can't really punish the cult right now. She has 2 rituals unlocked. So
I'm trying.
I know you're trying. She got a very large cult before she got a lot of tools to deal with the cult. Like she's got 11 members already, which makes me a little jealous. I have a hard time keeping my numbers up, but she's working with like tier 1 buildings and 2 rituals, which is the bonfire and go hungry for 3 days. I'm like, oh, yeah, that makes it hard. So she's out crusading to get some wood because she's out of wood.
I'm gonna have to fight Leshy again.
No, you don't have to fight Leshy. Oh, did you go in the portal?
I thought that though.
That's optional.
Fuck.
Yeah.
I'm gonna die.
Well, you lose a little bit of your stuff, and otherwise you're pretty much fine. You're not gonna die. You got 8 days. So you only got hit twice last time. You'll be fine.
He's harder this time.
Kind of. It's still Leshy. Alright, new string. I forget what I'm doing. Okay. If value greater than equal to 10, new string equals ceiling of value
Stuff.
as a string. I don't think I have to do that conversion for something like that, but it'll work. Else, it's less than 10. New string equals 0 as text plus string seal.
What happens if you have no followers?
You get 2 days to get 2 followers, or you lose your immortality, and if you die, it's game over. It will not happen. You have 11 followers. They all hate you, but you are actively working on that. Relax. When you go back, it'll be a new day. You can encourage all of them. That'll help it go up.
How do I encourage them?
When you talk to them and you give them the the thing that makes their faith go up, the thing that raises their level. Inspire you. I've seen you do it like 3 times. What's he bitching about?
Sacrifice a follower to absorb more power.
Oh. Yeah, that will make them like you more. Use that sparingly. I mean, it is a punishment, but...
The center.
Oh, you absolutely can. You absolutely can do that to the center. I would raise faith before you do that, though. Or maybe you should do it before. I don't know. They all are very upset right now. But when they're conscious, you can bless them. It's every day you can bless them. New buildings and decorations raise faith. Blessings. So, like right there with all them gathered, just talk to one of them and interact and do the give blessing or whatever it is. There you go. That will raise their levels slightly. And that gives you a bit of faith. Your sermon will give you a bit of faith.
He's reading a book.
He might be a poet. Sometimes they write in a book. Yeah. Okay. Update string minutes. Honestly, I don't need to do this every time, but I may as well. That's caps lock, baby. Hour string equals update string hours. Yay!
They're not doing their job.
Sex string equals update string. They might not have jobs to do right now. Or they could just be angry so they're not doing the job. I don't know. I don't know exactly how that works. Now we can change this to our string. What the fuck? Did it? Okay. Min string.
Polyamorous.
Set. You lucky. You lucky. If you had marriage, you'd be rolling in it, baby.
I have 8 polyamorous followers.
You would be rolling in it. Holy shit. So the benefit of polyamory is you can marry all of them and they won't get angry. They won't get angry at each other. And if they are all married to you, not only do they get benefits and you get benefits, but you can kiss them to raise their level of affection every day. Same as with everything else. You would not be having this problem with 8 wives if you could unlock that. Woe for you.
Okay, so
This will not show milliseconds, but I wasn't calculating those. Oh, good start.
why change the bed?
Why is it returning empty? Baby, I'm really trying to think.
I'm not.
Okay. Update string seconds. It should be. Oh, it's only seconds. I put that one indent too far. I am a fool. That needs to happen every time it does it. Okay. Well, that's not exactly what I wanted. Oh, because it's not. I know why it's doing that. Okay, so we need to default each of these to 0, 0, or they're blank out the gate. Duh. That's stupid. First time I played Cult of the Lamb, I didn't realize that time didn't stop, so I left the room to run an errand during a dungeon run, and everyone starved to death. So you're doing better than Malka. You didn't let your entire cult starve to death while you went outside. There is an accessibility feature now. You can disable that that happening, by the way. Okay, so that's working. That is working. We need an MS string. No. There we go. This needs to be seconds odd 1, I believe. Wait, oh. Am I crazy? Does that not work the way I think it is? Is it something? Okay. Hi, welcome to We're Googling It. Say hi to Simple Flimps. I always have to Google this. Godot mod function. I don't use mod enough. Always end up in here. I just want basic math. Modulo function. Dice price roll rand I percent max number plus 1. Divide by the number, give me the remainder. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do. It says I can't do that. Update string seconds. Float. Seconds is a float. Right? Seconds is a float. 1.0 is a float. This is a string. Update string returns a string. Invalid operands float and float. Can I not mod floats? This is from 2017. All right, fuck it. I have another way of doing this. Seconds minus floor seconds. Have a nice day. Oh, it didn't minus. There we go. There. MS stringer. There. Okay. Now here's the other problem we're facing. This is going to be a variable size, and that's not super ideal. But we need more room for that. Okay, now we hit play. Well, I see the issue. I see the issue. I see the issue. Okay, MS string. Okay, here's what we're going to do. Seconds minus 4 seconds times... No. Times 10. Start there. How are you like this?
Oh,
There shouldn't be two of those. For now. That will at least give us a number. Or so Sarah believed. So Sarah believed. All right. All right. All right. I'm going to scoot this over somewhere I can actually see it. Because it's doing some shit. Right? It looks like a fucking IP address, but it is counting down. It's just not... Am I doing the math wrong? I think I am doing the math wrong. Thinking about it, it's times 100, isn't it? Okay, so... We want this whole thing multiplied by 100. And we want that to be... Technically, we want to round that.
starving.
Save. Try again. Think. Yeah, look at that. Boom. Why are we getting these extra things? All right. I'm going to do something I don't want to do, but we're going to do it. It's going to get real mad at me. If I could type, it would be beneficial. I know I'm like trying to whip math out, and I'm probably breaking my own little brain here, but we're going to print this to log so I can see it. That is, in fact, printing a whole number.
I got a divine curse. The rainbow card.
We should be getting... Rainbow cards are good. 96. Okay, we are getting milliseconds. Right? These are milliseconds. This should be fine. This is passing a whole number. If so, this is the number it's passing in. We should be getting the ceiling of seconds. But we're always getting this 0.0. Do I need to int this? Is that what's happening? I'm making this weird formatting? Wow, suck my wiener. All right, so int this too. We'll see what that does. You're going to lose precision. Yep, but look at that. Fuckers! Boom. We now have a timer that does timer stuff. Now for the real nightmare. For sake of argument, I'm going to export these. I'm going to invert their stupid, invert their order. Just for my own sanity. All right. Now we're going to set the minutes here. We're going to give us a minute. All right. We're going to do a timer for a minute. And we're going to see if it blows up when it hits the well, that worked immediately. Look at that. As intended. Now I have to admit, I should switch to a monospace font or it's going to have issues. I thought Rise had a mono. It does not. Some of these are mono. The reason you want a monospace font typically is because you see how it's like jittering in size. It's kind of wiggling a little bit. I hate that. That's a pet peeve. That drives me crazy. Now, it would be slightly better if I said a line left. Or a line, well, no, right would be a nightmare. Problem is, I don't really like any of these as monospace. We might have to do in a line left. And that's fine. You love the wiggle? You know what, Malcolm? It's okay. I respect my little freaks. It's fine. What would Phil do? Does Phil like what's Phil gonna look like here? Phil gets rid of the wiggle. Phil works fine. I'm surprised how well Phil's working, actually. That's all right. I'll use Phil, I guess. Sure, man. Well, there we go. We now have something resembling a timer. Now, it doesn't go into overtime. It doesn't count up. We have a few things we need to do to it to make it work exactly how I want. But for the time being, I need to do this. I'm gonna do an update label. Not supdate. Supdate. Yeah, I know you have a name, babe. I just don't like. There. Alright, now this is arguably a little less efficient because we're gonna update all of these every frame, but like it's not inefficient enough that I give a fuck. Pardon? That was stupid. Function. Not fawn. Okay. So now instead of doing all this every time, we're just... That's me overthinking. Like, yeah, it's slightly less efficient, but... This just makes it so I call one thing and it works. That way, I also have a thing I can call if I set the timer to different values, if I do all kinds of this and that. And there we go. Boom. Update label. It shows the minutes immediately. No weird bullshit. Full update. Fine. It's not that big a deal. Forgive my, like, 2 or 3 extra CPU commands there, I guess, every frame. But, yeah. I'm sure it really makes a huge dent compared to the full global illumination voxel-based 3D scene. Technically, the lighting is voxel-based, not the art. Yeah. They do what the Hedgehog engine does. Light matte voxeling, or whatever you want to call it. Voxel GI. Hey, look at that. Okay. Now, there are two things of note I would like to do here. So project settings. We're going to go in the input map. Add 30. Because again, this is specifically for my weird dumb needs. Boom. Going to this. Okay. I'm going to make a cheat sheet. This is so made just for me. You need to understand that. So. Start, stop. Good old space bar. Okay. So. Now, I do kind of want to track overtime, but I don't entirely know how to do it yet. That's why I have this flag. But for now, we're not going to bother. Okay. Does that work? I never remember if that works. Let's find out together. All right. We're going to go back into our main script. Go here. All right. There's... Really? I have to do if... All right. This feels so gross. Okay. Whatever. I just want to get the name of the action and just do a switch statement or match, whatever you want to call it on this. So, but apparently, no. You highlighted something else. I hate you. All right. Actually, we use this one enough. I don't just name it timer because timer is just straight up a thing, and it's weird it's even letting me do that without getting mad at me, honestly, but not timer keeper. Right. It needs to be on ready. It's a label. Right. Now, in theory, spacebar should pause, unpause. Check that out. Now, there's one caveat with that. I'm going to be using spacebar a lot when I'm working. So if I have this reading inputs when I am not focused on the screen, not great. If I come over here, it doesn't do anything, so that's good. So as long as I'm focused on this, fine. Which I'm fine with that. I'm actually fine with that. So that's great. That gives me a quick, if I have to get up, instead of being a pissy little bitch like I was last night, because that's what made me want to do this, boom. It's paused. We can pause it whenever we need to pause it. Cool. So, good start. Right? Excellent. Now, continuing my crimes against coding.
Rock.
You, what's it turn into? Good to know. Been wondering that the whole time. We're going to set these up. All right. So, I need to go back into my timer, right? Toggle count. Easy peasy. We're getting somewhere. We are getting somewhere. Ooh la la. So, toggle count. Now, I am brain farting so hard right now, dudes. I'm brain farting so hard. Right. Never guess what the second one's going to be. Why do we call update label in there? Easy enough. Did I do those? Dumb. Dumb. Underscore. Save. Okay. Now we come in here. Boom, boom, boom. I can pause. Add 30. I can't sub 30. That's very strange. Minutes minus equal 30. If minutes less than 0. Hours minus equal. All right. If hours greater than 0. Hours minus equal. Damn, I keep doing that. Scoot over left a little bit. Minus equal 1. Minutes plus equal 60. Else minutes equal 0. There we go. We're going to do something similar up here. If minutes greater than 60, well, greater than equal to 60. Minutes minus equals 60. Hours plus equals 1. Boom. Right? Pause it. Add. It should not be doing that twice, but okay. And minus isn't doing anything, which I find deeply upsetting. Why not? I don't know yet. I'm doing his actions that are pressed. That's not smart. Let's go check if I screwed this up. No. That should be working. I put the wrong thing. It's drop 30. That's why that event doesn't exist. Drop 30. There we go. There we go. Someone gets a skib. I go boom, boom, boom. There's your hour and a half. Hit the button. Golden. I can even do it while it's running. If you want to add timers, bam, bam. There you go. very specifically for my scabs. But there you go. There is a timer. It times for how I do things. Hours, I probably don't need to do the rounded up to tens, actually. So, but I will. I'll do it anyway. Well, I'll just do this for hours. We'll do string hours. I pretty much never am going to have more than that, right? If I really want to, I can crank it up and it'll go over. But there we go. That should be adequate for everything I'm doing. We now have a timer. The timer can show up on screen. The catch is, at present, it will always show up with the cave. So I need to make the transparency work, which I know is a thing. Excuse me. What is a thing I can do? So I just need to figure out how to do that, and we will have a functional app specifically for my needs. My weird, silly little needs. Now, one more thing I would like to do. We're going to start with this, and we're going to set the default counter to false. Okay. Easy enough. I can add, I can play. Piece of cake. And for the sake of testing, I will continue to give it a 5-second timer I can rely on for just blah, 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 because we are going to do some other things. We are. Because this does not even begin to scream at me when I fucked up. So, and that's going to be our first thing. Now, I would like to have it count overtime for my own tracking, but that is not a priority uno. We've set up a thing to start that. My brain doesn't want to do the math right now. I'm sure it's not as complicated as I'm making it in my head. I need to completely invert this when it's negative, and I am struggling with that, apparently. Now, we can do something fun here, though. So, we're going to give this a child an animation player, right? We're going to create a new animation. It's going to flash. Now, this, we come in here to our color, we keyframe it. We are going to create a reset track. Thank you. Now, how long should this be? Let's say 2 seconds so I don't give anyone epilepsy, all right? We're going to go to the end. We're going to keyframe it there. Come over to the 1 marker. I just want straight up 1, please. We can do this. All right. I didn't keyframe it. You may yell at me. I'll fix it. I'll fix it. I'll fix it. Keyframe that. And now I set this to repeat. There was a repeat button. An option to tell it that it is a looper. There we go. We now have a I screwed up, and if I really want to, I can make it like blink more stressfully so I feel bad. That fades in red. Oh, there's a loop right there. Boom. There's the Sarah screwed up flash of doom. I can even come in and like cubic. Oh my gosh. I actually kind of like the cubic, I'm not gonna lie. I usually do. I don't know why I like cubic so much. Something about the curve. I thought this had an actual like curve editor I could do somewhere, but maybe not. I might be imagining that. It's been a while. I am also not on the latest version, so maybe it's something they had, and I'm just thinking out in my head. So this, sake of argument, yeah, this aligns left pretty much, right? That's fine. We're gonna put this here for now. That should work. Now this is not on autoplay, so that's funny. Can you go back to start, please? Thank you. Now, I go to our. We need a noise. We need some kind of horrible noise. Now, normally you can make your own noises and whatnot, but there's also stuff like Pixabay alert sound. Now, Pixabay rules. I love Pixabay. Um, that's not terrible. I don't mind that. What do you think, baby? For out of time? And if I want to hate myself, do I have desktop sound on? Is this even coming through? I don't. Okay, here we go. Boom. Now people can actually hear what I get. The good one. The self-inflicted torment. You know, for when you want to really just be upset that you screwed up.
Alert, alert, alert.
Wow. Yeah, I think the Dragon Studio guys have won me over. This is not the first time. They do pretty good. I should really make an account on this fucking thing. I use it all the time. I would say thanks, but I'm a broke ass bitch. And then we just go into our downloads like a dummy, and we just like shabam into our project. Now we have this. Okay, so all we got to do here is we add another child node. Stream audio stream player. We just need 2D. 2D is fine for this purpose. Come over here. We give it the noise. My stuff's starting to need some organization I haven't been doing, but for now I'm going to torment everyone looking at me. Okay. 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 So here's what we do. We go back into our timer script. We come up here. Our animation player is going to be relevant. We're going to pop this right here, I guess. Oh, never mind. It doesn't love me. It's like the dad that went for milk and never came back. There we go. We got 2 on readies. Boom, boom. Okay. Got our stream player. And change this to alert sound. And we're gonna change this to animator because it's just shorter. Okay. Now, if seconds hit 0, no longer counting down. Alert sound dot play and animator. Okay, now in theory, name it. This won't ever stop it is the problem. But there we go. We now have a noise. And we've hit the end. Now, if I really wanted to, I could leave like markers for every like 15 minutes or something to keep me like, oh, yeah, just a boop. Which wouldn't be too hard. It'd be like minutes mod 15 when the minutes change. Why not? Let's go find another one. Just find a nice beep on Pixabay. One I like. Oh, yeah. Lots of sensor beeps. That was not terrible. And there is always the other thing. Eh. My other tool, somewhere in here, game dev, there we go. JSX, this thing. I love this thing. This thing's great. Ew. Sorry to everyone. That one hurt. That one sucked. That was not bad. Like a little, like, the secret about sound design is it's really fucking annoying. Yeah, we don't need a slide. Slide's not helping. Even if I do think it's fun. Leave it alone, Sarah. You like it, fine how it is. Okay, we get the sample size, we download it, wonk. Okay, get a little WAV file, mix our shit. That's always fun, right? People love mixed shit. And then we go back in our downloads because that's where all my sounds go, I guess. And we just I'm gonna rename some of these because they're annoying. Okay, we have a ping. Now, I'm gonna rename this one. I'll rename this one to alert, and it will adjust accordingly. Now, I'm gonna duplicate your ass. Control D. Ping. Now, every so often. Oops, that was not what I wanted. Okay, we're gonna bring this in. Same deal as that. Ping sound. Now, when that goes off, I want to play it. Okay. Seconds, but okay. If minutes. Wait, we want to do this before that. If minutes mod 15 equals 0, pass. Make sure that actually, okay, mod's working. There. That gives me a little audio blip every 15 minutes in theory. That one we're not going to straight up test right now because I think we'd all lose our mind. Just sitting here staring at it. But this works, okay? The problem is if I do this and I hit play, it doesn't undo it. So do an update label actually. I think that'd be a good spot, weirdly enough. We only update label. And we do it here.
How do I go back to my pulp? I'm still fighting Rushy again.
Do not go in that portal. As long as you don't go in that portal, you're fine. When you break the statue, you go to fight her again. Primarily for achievement hunting, I think. Otherwise, you go through, you fight the witness or one of the bosses you've already beat before. The mid bosses. I'm sorry. I can make it bounce around the screen like the DVD logo, I guess.
DVD logo.
Hit the corners of my TV. Did you see that one? Oh, heck it, that was so close. I trained one eyeball to be lazy, so I can multi-see. My eyeballs are so crispy to the touch.
I can touch my eyeballs. I don't see.
Waiting on the DVD logo to hit the corners of my TV. Sometimes I wonder what will happen when it hits. Will the world stand still or fade into a dream? Will the DVD logo come to life and hold me like I held my wife? Still waiting for the DVD logo to hit the corners of my TV.
This Agorist?
That is a new boss you can fight. I think you get to claim them as a cult member, and you get a witness eye. Those are things you'll need later. They are unique items. You cannot lose them. Don't worry about it. There's a guide that wants them for prizes. Congratulations, you beat the optional guy. Have fun.
Didn't beat him yet.
I know, but that's all it is. When you refight one of those, you do not get them as a guy again. You don't. Yeah.
Hate this game. Hate this game. Hate this game.
Sorry, baby.
Do I lose all of that?
No. You should be fine. You lose a little bit, but... And it resets. Okay, perfect. I think that works pretty well. For my intended present purposes. I don't like... God, that makes me upset. I really, really do not like that it's not aligned there. I guess I could put it bottom left without much issue. Like, that should be fine. I'm just like, ugh. That used to be where I put all my stupid, like, now playing songs and stuff. That's too close to the edge. So this should be fine. Hi, Solar. What's wrong, honey? Oh, fuck me. It's not anchored. Are you like this? Why are you like this? I need to add a container. Flow container, grid container, margin container, panel container. One of these is right. So we need this set up. I mean, top left is fine, but that's where my logo goes. So I don't like that. Also, there's no padding. All right, layout. We're in the stuff I fucking hate, actually. Layout mode uncontrolled, anchor preset. Bottom left, thank you, have a nice day. Transform, size, position. I would like some padding. Container sizing, horizontal. Do 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 do.
Another dissenter. Damn it.
Oh no, it moved. Put this here. UIDs were supposed to fix this. All right, that works, I guess. If I set its thing to bottom right, is Malka gonna have his way? He's gonna be the happiest little thing in the world here. I could put it fucking in the middle, I guess. Weirdo. Now, bottom right, it does whatever the hell it wants, actually. How exciting for me. Because it has the minus. Okay, we don't need the minus right now. Okay, we don't need that. We presently don't. I'll keep one minus. It's just no. Don't do it, because we don't count down that much. It doesn't matter. You are overthinking it, Serenade.
How do you get the harvester?
You need to upgrade the barn. You will get the option later. What's wrong? She's getting spicy, lads.
Not everybody who watches you is a lad.
Okay, damn. She's getting real spicy. Give her a margin on the right. You know what? Give it a margin everywhere. Just give it a big old margin. Hit the button and make Malchus day. There you go. There's a wiggle. Enjoy the eye strain for a moment. While
What are we doing for dinner?
What do you want for dinner, baby? Okay. Do you have a particular preference on food? You don't know. Okay. I'm going to put it back over there. Otherwise, it just doesn't. Nope. Tell me when you want that. Something else they added is recently you have multiple outlines you can do now. You can stack outlines in newer versions, apparently. Which does sound nice, but it's not what we're doing today. We'll make it thicker, though, because I think that'll look nicer. Maybe make the shadow stick out a little more. Do that. Mm. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to duplicate main cam. We're going to try something new. This has the option. I saw it earlier. I just got to find it. Attributes. Positor. Projecting. Where the fuck was it? Is it only if it's in a sub viewport? Is that the problem? Leave. Okay. Environment. I'll give you your own environment. Okay. Background. Clear color. Project settings. General. Window. Resizable, borderless. I don't need resizable for this. Primary screen. Stretches to aspect is fine. Fractional orientation. Desync. Ring. Locale. Fonts. We have a font. Theme. Textures. Renderer. Viewport. HDR 2D is a thing apparently. Anti-aliasing. Environment. Default clear color. Jack shit. Yes. Now, question becomes, if I go into my cameras, no cam, we pop this down here under this one, right? Now this is where I'm going to put my latest horrible affront to God in this fucking if tree. That again, I really wish I could just make a statement of a match statement, but whatever. Fine. We make no cam current. Now, if I hit 0, 1, 2, 3, 0. 0 doesn't really do it, does it? Because it's no cam has no clear color. Okay. So let's stop this for now. Let's go into 3D. Grab hi. Give it something to look at. Stop, Merlin. Hello. Did I not set a no cam? Project settings. Why is it 0? Enter. It should be just 0. That to enter. I don't know why. Okay, good start. I need this facing just the void, please. Just the void is fine. So if I do that and we hit 0, we're now facing the void. The question I have then is if I go in here and I go to the cave, we have that. But what if I draw this behind it? Shit! This is our test. Okay, this is our test. I need to be visible in front of the box. I don't know how to fucking do that. That might be something I have to do a little research on. But if I can have the timer in front of me, now I could always just chroma key it out. I guess I could make it green and just do a chroma key filter for my thing. Whatever, I guess. But
Merlin, leave the plastic bag alone.
compositor to do. I don't know. I don't know how to use a compositor. Awesome. What's the attributes do?
Merlin.
Nothing I care about. Where do you find one? Okay, then. Are you hungry?
Yes. Food.
Want. Merlin, get out of there. Get out. There's no bag. Want me to get all? Want me to cook? There's 2 slices left. I can want whole pizza. What is your problem? Okay. Okay. She's hungry, lads and lasses. Just so she doesn't get mad. Sometimes if the camera's not visible, does that do anything different? No. Okay. Okay. Under what? Open project settings. Ensure advances on display window size. On. Windowed center primary scene. Position. Resizable. Portals has. I don't care if Portals is on. I do want transparent on. Okay. Close. Cancel that. That's not what I wanted. There we go. Okay. This should be fine. That destroyed my environment somehow. But if I go into the cave, if I fix the brick, here we go. And I go, it's not working, no, mommy. Goo, goo. Okay. No, that's fine. That's fine. We got one more step we can try. That's not what I wanted. Project settings. Borderless. That's not great. I don't have a quit button. My follower is dissenting. She's hungry. She wants pizza. There. I'm on 0. Go to my cave. I'm still behind it. God damn it. Okay, you know what? I think chroma key is perfectly valid here. Why make this harder for myself than it has to be? If I don't know what I'm doing, I can just... I can just go back to normal, right? Like... Why am I making this so hard for myself? You know what I mean? Turn off advanced, because I've lost track of what the fuck I'm doing, and I'm trying to hurry, because my wife is very hungry. I need to feed my wife. Revert the clear color. And we're going to set it to a nice, obnoxious, full green, nothing else. Ew. I hate it. Okay, if I hit play, and we go in here, everything is normal on camera 1, 2, and 3, and then 0 is going to blow your eyes out for chroma key purposes. Enjoy. Enjoy that. I'm still in the cave. Okay. That's fine. So, bright ass green, but that's fine. We can chroma key the green, I guess. And eventually I can do something here. Like if I wanted to, I could even set this up so that the inside of the cave is my new stream border. Like I could do this. Does it look good with the water? Holy shit, no. But it's there and I could do it. All right, but for now it's just that. We're just doing that. Fine. That gives us the option to chroma key a timer. And the timer has sounds and works for my functions that I need it to work for Skeb streams. Cool. Very nice, you could say. All right. Now, I'm going to go into here. I'm going to do one last thing, and then I'm going to say the timer is done for now. I hope that's okay with everybody. I'm going to add a new timer toggle. Timer toggle is just going to be the letter T. Okay. So let's get out of this eyesore. Glad that gets to be my 2D workspace now. Actually, I think I can change. I can just change this to be it. Green, done. I can go to the project settings and I can make that default. So if I'm in 2D, it shouldn't burn my eyes out. Cool. Even better, frankly. All right. Fine. We have our cameras. We have our toggle. We go up here. One last one. Elif. God help me. And there we go. Control S, hit play, make sure it works. It works. We have a functioning timer. And there's a lot we can do with this, right? In theory, if I can get the transparent window thing working, I could make my VTuber setup be in here and have full control over it instead of it being VideoTube, and that way it's all one app. I don't worry about it. I can set up what's the other thing I wanted in here? I wanted the timer. Oh, right. These are going to be set up to be like VRB and starting soon screens. That's the plan. That's just what I want for these. No big deal. Easy enough. That almost looks like a waterfall. That's not the purpose, but whatever. Little things to tweak it. Different camera angles. Figuring out how to fade between them would be nice. But I have full timer controls in here. I can do that to myself anytime I want. I can hit play, and I can even hide the timer. There's lots of options. So I could use this to track when to run ads. I could use this when skebs are done. I could use this for whatever I need to use it for. It's in 30-minute intervals, which is what the skebs are. And it's pausable. It is pausable. I don't have a full reset button in here. I don't know if I'll need one just yet. It'd be easy enough to implement, just a full zero it out, right? So maybe I'll do that out there. But that's the goal of what I wanted to do tonight. That's like 2 hours fucking around. I need to feed my wife, and arguably myself. So I'm gonna do that, and then maybe later we'll do some scabs and give this a test run. Any comments from the peanut gallery besides my followers dissenting? Was this interesting? Did we find this interesting? There's not a lot of people left, but people looked. I don't know. A little something different, a little something, I've wanted to work on anyway, and it's a tool for the art stream, so that's good. I am going to go for now. Thank you for hanging. Why? Well, I was done. Okay. I guess not. All right. New time. Is a new time. You're ordering pizza? You just got paid and you're ordering pizza. Okay. No, I guess not. It's fine. As long as it gets eaten, I don't care. All right. Well, we can play with this a little more then. There is.
Don't want the garlic sauce.
No. No, thank you. Just the usual is fine. Do the barbecue one.
The chicken pan honey barbecue one.
Yes. Save these label settings. There. Okay. Then for this one, I'll do the same. Should be able to just do a label set right there. Now, I could get my nice freaking font. What I would love to do is have a schedule visible in here. Among some other things. Like, there's a few things I'd like to do. It's really snug. Let's see. Let's see if I can find another font. I don't really want to do that, but I'll try just typing fonts. See what computer thinks. Computer thinks no, which means I have to go into Windows. Find it my damn self. Apparently I tried to open that in a web browser. Really cool. Let's look at OBS. What font am I using right now for my cave? This one. Starting soon is using rock salt. I do like rock salt. I do like rock salt. We'll go to rock salt. We'll just take it and we'll pop it in here. And I'm not selling this. I guess I don't need to worry about the licenses so much. You know what I mean? And we'll put that in the font. Well, bam. Has some issues, but that's okay. We can set this to like -5. We can set this to like -50. There we go. We can set this to like 128. That's looking all right. That's looking all right. It's such rock salt is a nice font with some real issues. There we go. Move the shadow out to like 25 on this one. Give it some. Right, 50. Fuck it. Why is it? The offset is 0. It's bad because it's dumb. Okay. Now if I put that there and we hit blomp. There we go. Now if I maximize, I can't maximize. I turned off resize, so that's fine. That is where it is. Starting soon. La 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 la. Pretty good, right? We're golden. I don't know why the shadow doesn't blur, but that's fine. It does its job. Isn't that lovely? Isn't it lovely? Setup label. Now we duplicate this. BRB label. And we turn this one off. I change this to B right back. I need extra space. There we go. Okay. Well, bam. Now we go in here. Now, starting scene cam. We are actually have to do this. Okay, put this up here. Put this up here. Setup label. Why? I wrote falls. What is with the autocompletes, man? It's doing all kinds of weird shit. All right. Oops, yeah, I'm falling. Giving up on the transparent thing for now, girl. Okay, she's off the phone now. I tried some things to see if I could get the transparency working, and so far no bad.
Ew, what's that? Holy
So I'll have to research that some other time. I have no idea. Might just be a 2D thing. 3D, it kills the world environment entirely. Apparently, a camera can't just take the world environment I already have, so I have to make a whole different one. Um, I don't know. Make local. Thank you. I don't need this thing. So this did nothing. Does nothing then. All right. Whatever. I did this. So we have the timer. Timer can be turned on and off, paused, unpaused, added and subtracted from. Makes noise. Makes a little ding every 15 minutes when it's running, for my sake. And I can leave it running while it's hidden. Doesn't matter. We now have starting soon as its own screen. It does not look complete, in case you can't tell. Need to make an exterior for the cave somewhat if I want to use this angle. That's fine. I don't mind that. I was planning to anyway eventually. We have our normal scene. We have our be right back angle. Again, an exterior would help a lot. I would like to have one that looks up. I always kind of have a big old tree over it, but whatever. We'll see. I had ideas for this over time. Some particles and shit, ways to flesh it up. And then we have straight up green screen that bitch, which is mostly useful for this, which you'll probably see on my next Skeb stream. So, How you doing, Solar? Welcome back. That is where that is. We have an ETA on dinner then, baby. Within the next 30 minutes, probably. Okay. There we go. I have a headache now. That's unfortunate. No, Solar has one, not me. Fuck you, Solar. Not her intentions, but it is funny. There's lots of weird shit we could do for this at the moment, art-wise, but for the moment, we have our funky little vines, which still hang a bit weirdly in places, but I've been getting better at it. There's clipping. It doesn't look supernatural or anything. Like, I mean, look at that, but they're fine. I don't know. It's my first time doing anything like this, so this is my environment art rough draft. This could use some smoothing, honestly. Like, I'm tempted to slap a subdivide on it, see if that does anything good. I don't know. I guess nothing's fucking stopped me from just going in Blender for now.
Here, come take this stitch back.
A stinky stitch, huh?
Like, smell it. It's stinky.
Why believe you?
Give it a smell. Smell his butthole.
What's butthole when you're not shutting things?
What's butthole?
Fancy buttholes. So I take him to the bank.
Well, this is just from digging in for quarters.
Good.
And there's still a shit ton in there. Well, this is a $1 coin. My grandpa's.
$1. Who the fuck is John Tyler?
I need a zip line.
You need a zip line. I mean, Bill. All right. It doesn't look so unimpressive when it's in here, does it?
For our driver. There's $8 in it.
Okay, un momento, por favor. You gave them all $8? Is that tip too?
Yeah.
Oh. Did we not tip them on the thing?
No.
Oh. Wow, we are poor.
I laughed so hard my back popped.
You're welcome. Enjoy your freshly popped back, baby girl. I love you. Sorry we're so poor. You are poor.
I have to stream now.
You're streaming?
I have to stream now.
Okay, who are you streaming for? Cinnabon. Okay. Good luck. She's streaming now, I guess. If anyone's like, oh my god, Cassie time. Fuck this bitch and her lame coding and 3D model shit.
I'm here.
I can go hang out with the fun person. To be fair, Cassie is the fun person.
I am not the fun.
She's the fun person. She thinks she's not fun. Because she's so fun, she can't even realize how fun she is. I guess you could say she's not fungible. Okay. Here at the cave's vagina, we believe. I'm gonna mark seam here. We are going to rework this slightly because we are going to have this go out into some good old-fashioned dirt. Just some good old dirt, you know? Sometimes it's just time to dirt. It creates a bit of an odd shape, and I'm sure the quads are really happy with me, but you know what? Suck it. I am your deity, and you must do as I say. Oh, I liked it better when it just does that. We'll just have it curve into the dirt. The dirt will come into it. It'll be fine. Whatever. So, but we do get this nice little, what you call it. We can scoot these up a bit, give it a little more ease here. We can put a loop cut here and create something of a ridge. Just a little something here. Kind of bringing it together a little. It doesn't have to be a fully intact object, but at this point it kind of may as well be half the time. It's an interesting situation I've put myself in with that. Know what I mean? No, not that. There we go. Boom! I missed. F? My goodness, what a shape. Me when I see myself in the mirror. F?
Serenade?
Yes?
Heard that. Funny.
I'm kind of funny.
Funny.
I'm kind of funny. I'm a little. Doesn't think I'm funny.
Oh,
I need I need this specifically. Thank you. Pull that out of the wall, please. Yeah, there we go. Oh, we got a random triangle here, and that's not ideal, but that's, you know, sometimes shit happens no matter what you do, and you just gotta deal with the fact that you've birthed a random triangle. You know? Life advice for the kids. Trust me, kids. Occasionally, you will just birth a random triangle. There's nothing you can do about it, so accept your place in this fucked up world. I see how it happened, and it will happen again. That is on me. This is where I remind everyone I am not a particularly versed 3D artist. What, baby? Not particularly what? Did you say I'm a bad coder? Did you say I'm a bad coder? I'm not even coding. Why'd you do that to me right now? I made a timer. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. Look at my fancy timer. It's alright, everyone does. It's pretty great. If? Alright. Oh. Isn't that interesting? What a funky surface we have here. Now, there's a way to fix this, right? Like, if this went up here and this got split,
sorry.
do I need to fix it? Does it matter to anyone but me? Like,
I want to make sure that you can.
I am going for like, this could be a good portfolio piece kind of thing. But no matter what I do, I'm not good at retopo. I'm really not. That's a problem I have. Like, there's a way to solve this so it's not a huge piece of shit, and I need to really think about what that way even
Stop
is.
feeding your followers food.
What? I get that. Do this, right? This is now a quad. So if I dissolve this seam, this edge, wasn't how I wanted to do that. That works, I guess. That's now a quad. That's a quad. That's not, but to be fair, those are also extra faces. So I go womp. Now they're all quads. I did it. Give me a job. Dear industry, I did it. I deserve a job. Please ignore all the fact that no one can get one right now. This seems in a stupid spot. I don't like it. I'm gonna put it here, I guess. I don't know. Makes more sense with what I'm doing now. There's another one here. And you know. Yo, meth?
Take my bottle of pills, but I don't want to. My ADHD meth. Legal speed.
Okay, so if I join this, I can dissolve these, and now those are quads. Look at me. Look at me. I'm a genius.
No, you're not.
My wife is mean to me. My wife is mean to me. She bought me pizza, but she's using that as a cover to be mean to me. Yeah.
I'm using.
Yes. So mean. Vicious individual.
Bad.
How dare you even breathe?
Wow.
Yeah. You vicious, no good, bad person. You. Am I doing this right?
I don't like you anymore.
Do I remind you of someone? Oh no, that's even worse than what I was thinking. I was trying to sound like your ever supportive mother, but that
Yeah.
your thing is also pretty terrible, so I've made this is not what I came in here to do, to be fair. I just, you know, I made the cave more cavey. This is weird, right?
So you want the city? You're looking for 1800s kind of action.
Is a quad. This isn't. That's, you know, there's things I can do about that. Okay. There. That is at least slightly better. The topo is still super weird, right? But again, I'm a professional. I am learning. I am a hobbyist who wants to be better. But also, give me a job. I am so poor. Give me a job, please. Okay. And I could smooth this out. Like, there's a lot I could do that would make this make more sense. Like, if I don't think you're gonna see the outside that much. And it's not really worth that much fun. But whatever. Oh, food's here. There's a triangle.
Kind of the way she dresses.
For the guy.
$8.
$8.
You have like a specific thought for like what her clothing is gonna look like? Like, does she have a job? Like a job that you're interested in?
What? Use my foot. Where do you want your food? I've been thoroughly distracted by this task, but whatever. She's been fed, dogs. Hopefully this sparks joy in her soul. I need my meds, I'm done. Bit by bit, I build up the outside of this thing every time I'm in here. But it is not technically what I came in here to do. Also, this looks bad, right? It's a naughty face. A naughty face! That brings things out a bit. Like this needs some cleaning, but it's fine. I can't wait at the thought of you. Ooh. Let's try that. It's a slight adjustment, but gives us just a little bit more space here. This is a nightmare, right? But that'll work. Smooths that out a bit. Try to make the topology not the ugliest thing you've ever seen in your life, but it's kind of hard with the thing I've done here. But you know, Davey's unofficial son. Hello. What's the official son? Were you disowned? Oh no. I think I want. Yeah, no, I don't want that. That doesn't make sense. Because you're gonna see the official son as Noel. Let me see. Mark this seam. I'm gonna remove. I'm reworking my seams. This'll definitely go great for me. Everyone loves when you rework your seams. And this makes as much sense as anything else at this point. Fine, whatever. I just want it to like unwrap like a pretty die, you know? This is the cave. I can show you the this is the cave-in engine in its previous state where I've been extending the front. I am working on a stream overlay. I made a timer. Lovely. I can add to it. I can subtract from it. It yells at me when it hits 0. It blinks red. And I have different streaming setup screens and good old green screen because I can't figure out how to make transparent windows work yet with the 3D environment. I give up one or the other, so whoopsie-doo. But gradually, I've been building this out and making my water, and I wish the water had more shimmer to it. I'm not very good at shaders. I'm learning. I play with it bit by bit. You know, you can kind of see what it's doing from up here. And every so often I come in here and I poke what we've got and I try to make it a little bit better than what it was before.
I can try.
No, I want one that doesn't make me scream. It's a chill alarm for a good reason. Clear seams. Co-working? No, I don't even know what those are really. What am I doing? What am I doing? I was doing seams. I'm trying to figure out where to put my seams. I could put them. I've already got it there. I guess it makes sense to just keep doing that. Let it come out. I mean, it's going to be under the water and eventually merging with some sort of dirt or something. What do I usually stream? I usually stream various this and that. I'm supposed to do JRPGs on Wednesdays. I've been flopping on that lately. I've got a disgusting desktop you can see covered in demos and stuff right now that I was working through for Next Fest. We play horror games with friends sometimes. I kind of bounce around. I've been doing Star Ocean, but it's been like a month since I've touched it because it made everyone mad. By everyone, I mean me specifically. That should work. This should work. Okay, we're gonna U angle based should be fine. Save that. Tab U. Okay. Going to export an updated cave. I believe I've been. If I've just been using object. No, I must be using GLTF. I am using GLTF. The cave. Okay, and we want to include selected objects. Thank you very much. Don't need animation. It's just a mesh. Go. Yeah, I bounce around a lot. And then on Pixel, I do art streams. But I draw nutty things, so I can't do those here. We have a link down there somewhere, I think, though. If you like my little corner bitch, I made that. I forgot how to do my life. Right, we're going in here. Going in here. We're gonna make this a little smaller. That's a lot smaller, but that's okay. That's okay. We're gonna go into our models. We're going to. Did not expect to hear what randomly. I'm all over the place. You got it. Do you have any idea how that narrows it down? Pictures, string kit, models, otter cave. This bad boy goes right here. Boom. Look, we have an outside now. Ooh, it's not even hideous. It actually works pretty well. Sorry, my mess of an unwrap attempt and all that.
I'm gonna add it.
Yeah, that's working. That's working. That's working. I draw naughty things, not nutty things, but I draw nutty things too. I did do a lot of shit post art last night. Edge detection would be cool. I have no idea how that crap works. I should probably just go find a water shader. I mean, I'm already using noise. It's not like I hand painted this. I did the vines though. My weird wet cave. All right. Our seams, but they aren't. I mean, this one's pretty bad. This one's pretty obvious. I don't know. I'll figure it out. One thing at a time. Inside still looks good. Everything's nice in here. Yeah. Alrighty. Thank you for the follow. I hope you and your brother Noel work things out. All right, let's go back to the vines because that's what I came in here to do in the first place. Okay, so here we go. Here we go. We've got these lovely things. Now I was thinking, and I'm iffy on doing it, but I was thinking adding a modifier. Subdivide. What is this? Okay, so I've put the subdivide, right? It doesn't look like it's particularly helping. Come on, solidify. What was I? The fuck was I touching?
My butt.
Your butt?
My butt.
Your butt?
My butt.
Butt?
Butt.
Butt?
Butt.
Oh, that's what I did. The wrong thing. Hold on, this bad boy. Hey, are you not? Solidify. Thank you. Let's generate a subdivide.
Actually.
Maybe move it up? Can I not move it up? Or are you like, nah, oh, it's got to be this right here. This specifically right here. Okay, so that makes it a little smoother, right? A little bit smoother. Maybe I should do 2. Okay. Yeah. All right. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to play with this angle a bit because it is still really, ooh, them going into each other is kind of weirdly interesting though, in a weird way. I keep saying the word weird. Yeah, if I bring these all down, that is a smoother droop. You get what I'm saying? Do you feel me? Bring that in. That doesn't make a lick of difference. Doesn't make a lick of difference, guys.
Okay, so we have this big.
I mean, that is smoother. It is way more polys, but I'm really overthinking poly counts, I think, on account of the fact that it's not the year 1997 and I need to chill the fuck out. Export object. Include visible, selected, better, vines. Data, it doesn't matter. We're keeping all that. Okay. Now, I would love to make these wave in the wind at some point. That's the big goal. I'm wondering if I should just do bone animation for that or a shader. I think you need the vertex paint for the shader, but for now, we're going to bring in our updated vines, which should be much smoother and aren't. So I did something wrong again. Don't worry about it. Export. Go back in. All right, pick our vines. I might have done cave. I do that. Do data, custom properties, transform. Yep, data, scene graph, mesh, UVs, normals. Now, don't one of you visible, rendered, active, custom, cameras, punctuals. There was a button. Geometry nodes, GPU, flatten, full, apply modifiers. That's the fucker. That's the bitch. I don't need MS Paint. Okay. All right now. I'm not doing an impression of what's his name, Pirate Software. You know, really, this and that, blah 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 blah. Everyone's mad at me for reasons. It's a lot to get into. I sound more like I'm trying to be the dude from Family Guy, Peter. Peter, listen to me.
I'm not gonna take it all the way down to the ground. So
Things are rough right now, Peter. My wife left me. That actually makes a lot more visual sense. That's a huge improvement. Okay. Okay. Oh, null is in non-existent. Well, I kind of figured, but also I like being silly. So, why are you going that way? I didn't tell you to go that way. I want you to go this way. It's the opposite of that way. You need to be scaled. Oh, but you look so squished. Okay. What if I had a job as an environmental artist? It wouldn't last at this rate. Look at that frickin' clipping. Oh. Pull it out a little bit. That's a little better. What if I right there maybe? Is that acceptable? Is that making anyone mad? Alright. That's fine. I want this, please. Okay. 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 I want to just drag your ass. just this way, because I'm that kind of bitch. All right, we're gonna go up. We went up. Doesn't look terrible. Oh, I see what happened here. I see what I did. No. No. Oh, maybe? Maybe I don't see what I did. All right. Like that. That's pretty good, I think. I think that's sitting pretty good. Then there's this one, which has seen better days in most regards. We're just gonna do what we did with the last one. That worked pretty well. We're gonna drag it out. We're gonna look around. We're gonna find a nice spot for it.
Cindy,
Like
are you there?
that, maybe? Ooh, wait, that works. I don't hate that. I don't hate that. All right, let's try it. How you looking? Oh, okay. No, that's fine, right? That looks good. All right, and I'm going to go into OBS. We're going to make it the whole thing. Wow. Put myself back on top. Hello. How we doing? My legs! Okay. Yeah. All right, and if I go to 1, hello, I'm starting soon, and eventually I'll finish making the world. If I go to turn that off, I should turn that off by default, huh? 3, there's our BRB screen. You don't see as much random out of place environment as you used to, so that's huge. That is a huge update. And the vines are working better, so I probably add more of the vines or something hanging down. I've seen roots or something. I want to do some tree shit. Play with multi-mesh, maybe do some grass. Ooh, I'm getting fancy. You know, things like that. We're getting somewhere. Yeah. Ooh. Still needs more life. The only thing that makes it look alive at all is the water kind of moves in its own weird way, and the lighting. So it's still very stagnant. It doesn't exactly impress right now. You know what I mean? But that's okay. That's okay. We're doing one thing at a time. And tonight we got our timer. It does its animations. It does its noises. All is Gucci. It yells. It's great. Nice calming, hey, you're out of time. Stop sketching. You have spent the entire thing. So that'll help with scabs, because now I don't have to play with a big old stupid filter, dumb, useless timer anymore. Hooray. I hate that thing. It's a pain in the butt. One less browser source to fuck with. Doing great. Have I earned my pizza? Have I earned my pizza slice? I sure hope so. Oh, let me think. I don't know if there'll be time to do scabs tonight. It's getting kind of late. I could play a game. I could do a few things. I don't know. I could work on Slime 4. I haven't done that in a bit. I think I'm doing that on Fridays or something. I don't know. What was my schedule? I made a schedule. I should look at my schedule. I made a schedule, guys. Cat ears, cat ears, cat ears, cat ears. Up we go. That's the sketch stream. That's all that. Okay, we got Ghost Janitors was Monday. Quest stream Tuesday. Last night ended up being Scabs, and today ended up being this because of stuff that happened doing Scabs. Tomorrow is, and I quote, whenever I want, if anything, suck it. So.
Okay.
There's that. So, if I wanted to eat and then come back and do like Cult of the Lamb or demos or something, I mean, she's streaming work.
And show me up, I'm gonna get pissed.
I'm not gonna try to show you up. I want to advance the story. I'm on the 4th area. Whatever. I got other shit I can do. She's been trying to get into it. She's been having issues with her cult. They don't like her very much right now. They need a good beating, but that's not an option. Unfortunate. Well, it's not the way I play. Maybe it's in there and I just don't know.
I'm gonna beat them.
you're gonna beat them. An option where you can just go combat mode on your villagers. Technically, that can happen. You can fight them, but it's a whole thing. And it's like one at a time, and I haven't had it happen yet, even though it technically can now, because I've had someone get overwhelmed and damned by their own sins. Uh-oh. All right. Yeah, I'm gonna go eat. I may or may not do something else a bit later. We'll see if there's a late night thing. Maybe I'll help Liz rent out her Thursday with something. We'll figure it out. I'll do something. It's gotten late and weird, but I'm happy with this because again, last night I was getting all stressed out. I got snippy. This is the thing I'm at. Like, if I get snippy with my wife over something, there's a problem that needs solved. And
She was a bitch.
the core problem is me. Let's be real. But I also know I'm a limited person who's really bad at improving, and I'm trying to all the time, but it's a slow pace. So if I can give myself things that help, for example, a timer that I can simply pause and start as I need, that's great. And that's what I really wanted. It's why I uninstalled Crossworlds. It's why I'm here now. I don't want to snip at my wife. I need to minimize my snippage because it doesn't benefit her and it doesn't benefit me. It doesn't help anyone. It's just me being a little bitch. So, and it's something I've wanted to do anyway. And then I worked in the starting student in the BRB. So we're doing great. We've got lots of shit going on. Now, I should probably have a goodbye screen or something. I don't know. Whatever. One thing at a time. I think this is a lot. This is like a less than 3 hours. Half has been me goofing around talking. We've got like a bunch of new shit in here. This is a good push. For just a whimsical afternoon, whatever. So yes, for the information of anyone watching who's interested in commissions, there are 5 skeb slots open, I believe, unless I've had some taken today. I don't know if I've looked. I don't remember if I've looked. Maybe I should look before I open my mouth. Let's look. Let's go to my VGen and double check before I walk away.
Is that better?
5 slots. Yeah, there's 5 skebs open. So if anyone's been thinking about it, there you go. They are open for now. If they fill up again, I will not open them up immediately for people when they're done. I'll open it up for patrons first, and then by the end of the week or so, I'll flip it over. Mondays or something. Trying to give $5 backers first dibs on new things. That's going to include the bunny when she's done. Maybe I should do that tonight. Ooh, I forgot about that. I also have crap to do. Okay, I got lots to do. I'm thinking about it like, shit. Okay. None of it's fun. Well, some of it's fun. The bunny stuff's fun, but like the bundle stuff is less so. Oh, look, a streamvoo.com. I love streamvoo.com. They're so not a scam at all. Ooh. And that's like even Automod's like, hey, like no shit. Ugh. All right, I'm gonna go eat. Y'all have a lovely time. I will turn off my timer. Yes, and I will see you all later with my new toy and stuff. We'll figure out how it fits onto the actual stream overlay and shit. We'll get there. One thing at a time. Thank you for joining. See you next time. A sploosh.